It's a smart move making this last release a puzzle title, as, by and large, design-wise, puzzle games sidestep being hampered by technological limitations much better than most other genres, the best example being Tetris, which has never been bettered by 3 dimensions, particle effects, or Dolby 5.1. The initial simplicity of its resources are perfectly suited to this now underpowered little machine, but after 20 minutes of play, you come to realise that simplicity of presentation does not equal simple design. Woods tries to cram 2 very different gameplay mechanics together, a Connect 3 puzzler and a rudimentary platformer, and it's a mixed blessing. The game plays out like this. You control Toad directly, as he runs across and over multiple coloured blocks in the shape of forest life. From above, a fairy drops colour-matching bombs that can be placed next to, horizontally, vertically or diagonally, these wildlife blocks, and when a total of 3 or more of any combination are lined together, they're blown up and removed from play. Occasionally, the fairy will disappear and Wario will enter, which makes your life more difficult, as he will proceed to drop additional blocks that must be destroyed, or he will shunt a spiked block that looks very much like a thwomp that hangs above your head. This spiked block acts almost as a timer, and if it crushes you, it's game over, making the overall objective to clear the area to proceed to the next. Toad can pick up both play pieces, run up the side of and carry huge stacks of blocks, and can kick single pieces horizontally. On the one hand, having an avatar is an innovative way of removing an arbitrary pointing device, and better merges the world and feel of the Mario universe, and places a sense of urgency to the proceedings. It's really fun to see Toad run up the side of a tower of bombs, grab one from the pile, turn and slam it down to complete a lineup. But on the other hand, it can be a real hindrance, as the speed at which the title runs means that you have to be incredibly quick and adept on the control pad to get Toad to the area you want. It also means that neither mindset of play, the quick, calculated platformer or the lateral thinking puzzler, works entirely, and only when you blend these in your personal playstyle can you really succeed. Actually, blending and combining are key themes with this title, thematically, mechanically, and artistically. Thematically is the aforementioned unification of puzzling and platforming. Mechanically is the combining of play pieces in specific ways to proceed. Artistically, it is the merging of the feel of 2 worlds. There's a reason Toad is the perfect choice for this title as the main character, and it's because the visual design is much closer to Super Mario Bros. 2 than it is any of the other Mario titles, and most will automatically associate Toad with that title. It has his first playable role, remember? The design is, for want of a better word, squidgier, and an anthropomorphized fungus fits in very well in this woodland-themed game. But Wario has a style all of his own, a more Japan-centric approach, with an emphasis placed on a sense of disjoint and harder lines. But somehow, these 2 looks are meshed so well together you could swear they were one and the same. There's the sense that the world is better curved, with a rounded edge of something good like Toad, something helpful like a bomb, up against the right angles of the blocks you must destroy, the diagonals of your opponent's signature moustache. But most interesting is the blending of era present in Woods. It seems like this is a product simultaneously experiencing and showcasing elements of several different eras, past, present, and future. There's definitely something of the Sam Beckett in this Nintendo puzzler. At its core, this is 8-bit hardware pushed to the limit, with all that entails. But its stylings are more thoughtful than that, being more akin to the 16-bit era. As a puzzle dynamic, it's actually closer to the complexity demonstrated in 32-bit titles like Puzzle Bobble or Puzzle Fighter, and its progression and saving structure is much closer to the days of the 64, providing challenge whilst maintaining a fun experience. But most impressively is the 128-bit tutorial mode. Not having a copy of the manual to hand, I dived right in, and promptly found myself entirely bewildered, and I lost very quickly. Returning to the main screen, I noticed the training mode, and decided to give that a shot instead. Instead of giving an automated demonstration of how to play the game, This mode places you into the puzzle environment, gives you a very brief but simple instruction on one of the mechanics, and invites you to complete the stage presented therein. It naturally guides you through the process of most of the techniques by actively doing, which forces you to pay attention and actually learn something about the game, much in the same way as the titles on the GameCube started to towards the middle of its lifespan. And on the subject of lifespan, the other surprise is just how much content is here. Whilst there are few modes available, and the differences between them being really quite minor, the sheer volume of levels is really impressive. The save system mentioned earlier is definitely needed for much more than the retention of high scores. There are relatively complex bleeps and bloops chucked from the sound chip, but this isn't particularly stellar work, the music looping fairly often, and whilst it's not offensive, it can begin to grate when you're into a protracted session of play. My advice is to turn it off, something handily available on the Virtual NES website, one of many ways to get yourself a copy of this title. It's also available on NES, SNES, for the Wii Virtual Console, and as part of the collection of NES titles on the GameCube version of Animal Crossing. Interestingly, there was a version available for the SNES's download service in Japan, one that starred famous television hosts of the day, think Ant and Dec on ketamine, but it's only really available through more illegal methods. Prices vary, but for the for-pay iterations, the Animal Crossing version also comes with a selection of other great NES classics, and is probably the best value because of it, at around £15. Differences between the NES and SNES versions are largely cosmetic, but the one major change is the ability for drop bombs to destroy creatures in multiple directions on the SNES, as opposed to just one way on the original Nintendo. The Super NES version was released slightly later, and this change probably reflects a slight tweak on the behalf of the designer to alleviate the difficulty a little. There are also admittedly a few extra features and game modes to be found on the 16-bit cartridge, but as a core experience, neither version bests the other. Puzzle game fans rabid for something fresh will devour every single moment of this. And whilst the difficulty may initially be off-putting to an audience grown sluggish on a diet of quick saves and active difficulty balancing, those that persist will find an experience as good as any puzzle game today. Warios Woods, then, is an incredibly well-realised action puzzler, and a fitting end to what many consider the greatest console of all time. It's a love letter to games, simultaneously embracing ideas learnt and providing a brief glimmer of things to come, celebrating the fact that, whilst this may be the end of an era, it's by no means the end of the beginning, and how wonderful it is to have such a young, vital medium. Thanks again for tuning in to this month's podcast. If you've liked the show, please leave us a review on iTunes and check out the various ways you can get involved with the show. You can either join the Facebook group, follow us on twitter.com/InRetroSpect, or email us direct on 000@hotmail.co.uk to share your thoughts on what we do and what we say. But in the meantime, take it easy, play some games, and remember to download next month's InRetroSpect.